Hello everyone. Today we are going to be digging into Samson Agonistes, which is a closet drama. It's a tragedy by John Milton, and as always we'll be reading through selections of the work as we go through to give you a taste of the writing, because we all know you're not going to read it, so might as well give you some excerpts. Now, before we get started, I just want to give some background. So, in regards to the title, Samson Agonistes, it's a play about the story of Samson from the Bible, right? Judges 13 through 16, 17, something like that. And so the word Samson is familiar, and it is indicative of the thing you think it is. It's the story of Samson. But the word Agonistes is a bit weird. I believe it's Greek, and it refers to a person in a struggle, or more specifically, someone who's a competitor in the public games, or like Olympics, I guess. So referring to Samson almost as an athlete, which we will see, if you know the story of Samson at the end, he kind of, in a weird way, sort of fills that position. So kind of an odd choice of title from Milton, but it makes sense in some sense of the word. So I mentioned that it is a closet drama, which means that it is written in the style of a play, but it doesn't have any stage directions, so it's meant to be read, not performed. The story is biblical fan fiction, right? So it takes the story of Samson, kind of adds to it. And this genre of tragedy in Milton's time takes place within a 24-hour period. So instead of covering the entire story of Samson, it just covers the last imagined day in his life, right? So right before he topples the pillars, right? Overall, Milton is using the story of Samson as a... There's many moral lessons that can be learned. What I gleaned from it was that the ability to overcome circumstance. It's a display of masculine virtue, right? Throughout the discussions that he has in the play, Samson demonstrates the denial of lust. He shows discernment, courage, action, overcoming despair. So he's showing a lot of virtue in the play. Something else notable about the work is that it was written in 1671, and it was Milton's last major work while he's blind and on house arrest in his home in England. And so Milton is blind at this point when he's writing Samson Agonistes, and he's dictating it to someone who's writing it down, which is impressive. But of course, Samson is also blind. So there's a bit of a kindred spirit there, and one could make the argument that it is perhaps possible that Milton is sort of self-inserting into Samson as he's writing this story. And if you are a bit more historically minded, you might be tempted to make, and rightfully so, inclined more so is the word, to make historical connections to the work. So, although I'm not so historically minded, so that's not the point of this video, but I do want to bring you through the major key points and what I took away from it. So, I guess I'll summarize quickly the Bible story, and then I'll dive into the work. So, for those of you that aren't super familiar with the story of Samson, the historical context, reading from Judges 13 here, the historical context is that this is the period of judges in the history of Israel. So Israel is sort of in this cycle of obeying God, but then thinking that they know better, disobeying God, and then they get put into slavery, then they get subjection to another nation, and then they get delivered, they're free, they're serving God, they're on fire, and then they kind of leave God again, and this is this cycle of being called to account and then giving it all up again. So the context, this is the very first verse in Judges 13, it says, "Again the Israelites did evil in the eyes of the Lord, so the Lord delivered them into the hands of the Philistines for 40 years. So the context of where Samuel's coming in is that his nation is subject to another. They are the slaves of the Philistines. And so Manoah, his father, his wife, I'm not sure if her name is mentioned, is barren. But an angel appears to the couple and says, "You're going to conceive, but you must dedicate him to the Lord." So he's to become a Nazarite, which is not the same as a Nazarene. Jesus was a Nazarene, being from Nazareth, but a Nazirite was sort of like something different. It was like you took vows and you were sort of part of the church. You were like serving God. So it was kind of like being set apart. Some of the things that Nazirites had to do were like not shave their head. They had to not drink fermented drink. They had to not touch dead bodies. So they had other requirements as well. This is what. So the angel appeared to the couple, Manoah and his wife, and told them, well, you're going to have a kid now, but you have to dedicate him to the Lord. He has to be a Nazirite. And they also prophesied that Samson would deliver Israel. So he'd become one of the judges and deliver Israel from the hands of the Philistines. And so he grows up. He does all these miraculous feats like killing a lion, killing 1,000 Philistines with the jawbone of a donkey, and is kind of just like, he's the coolest guy around. No one can beat him. He's the strongest. But his strength is in his hair. So he... I'm skipping bits, obviously, but he ends up marrying this Philistine woman from Philistinian, if that's the right word, and named Delilah, and she eventually ends up tricking him into revealing his secret. He gets captured because he's weak, because she shaved his head while he was sleeping. The Philistines gouge his eyes out and then take him as a prisoner. He's forced to push a mill to grind grain, I would assume. And he's kind of, well, he can't see, right? So he's just like totally hopeless, and he's a slave to the Philistines. And he's obviously wondering to himself how he will become the deliverer of the Israelites if he is blind. And slowly his hair grows back, but he doesn't let the Philistines know that he's getting stronger. And then eventually they parade him at a festival to their god Dagon, some demon. And Samson pushes down the pillars of the gathering place, and he kills himself and everyone, dying the hero's death. And that's kind of the story of Samson, right? Now, in Samson Agonistes, like I said, it's a closet drama. It occurs via a 24-hour period. So the end of the 24 hours being him toppling the pillars, and prior to that, he is having various discussions with people from his life. So he talks with his dad, he talks with Delilah, he talks with the chorus, right? The chorus is just like a group of people, his tribesmen from Dan. They're called Danites, right? Because they're from the tribe of Dan. He talks with Harafa, which is some giant, strong Philistinian warrior who kind of challenges him to a fight. And then, yeah, so those are like the four people he talks to. The chorus is kind of present throughout and just acts as like sort of like a plot device to like drive the discussion forward. It's not really like as significant of a thing, kind of just keeps him talking. The three main people that he talks to are his dad, Delilah, and Harafa. And so we have those three visits. And then he's taken away to the festival where, of course, he topples the pillars, and then there's a bit of conversation between the father and the chorus, and the book ends, or the work ends. Something I wanted to point out right off the rip is that Milton is portraying Samson as very wise and very repentant. When he was younger, he was obviously very rash, and he kind of strutted his stuff a little bit, didn't always follow God's ways. He obviously married a Philistinian woman. He revealed his secret, which he was not supposed to do, to her, right? That's what led to his downfall. He also, in the story of killing the lion with his bare hands, he walks back to the lion, which is a dead corpse. He's not supposed to touch dead things, being a Nazirite, and he scoops the honey out, right? That's a direct disobeyment. He directly disobeys God's commands for him as a Nazirite by touching the dead lion, and so he doesn't always do the right thing. But in this last 24 hours of his life, Milton portrays him as being very repentant and wise and mature. So I just have some excerpts here. We have lines 53 I'm reading from. This is Samson talking. He says, "But what is strength without a double share of wisdom? vast, unwieldy, burdensome, proudly secure, yet liable to fall by weakest subtleties, not made to rule, but to subserve where wisdom bears command. So he's kind of, even though strength is like his thing, he's recognizing that wisdom is strength is supposed to serve wisdom. Wisdom is ultimately more important. Also here we have lines 373 to 380. This is Samson again talking. He's responding to his father Manoah. He says, "Appoint not heavenly disposition, Father. Nothing of all these evils hath befallen me but justly. I myself have brought them on. Sole author I, sole cause. If aught seem vile, as vile hath been my folly, who have profaned the mystery of God given me under pledge of vow, and have betrayed it to a woman, a Canaanite, my faithless enemy." So he's not shifting the blame. He's taking the blame. He says, my current position, the way I am, I'm a slave, I have no eyesight, it's my fault. I revealed the secret. Right, so very mature. And then one more here on lines 412 to 413. He says, servile mind rewarded well with servile punishment. So he's recognizing the fact that he was weak, he had a servile mind, and now he's rewarded with in kind, in likeness, right? And there's kind of an interesting thing I noticed with the blindness, because when he's younger and more rash, he is spiritually blind, but physically he can see. And once his eyes are blotted out, he can no longer physically see. But in Samson Agonistes, he's spiritually able to see. He's spiritually very wise. So kind of a role reversal there that happens. Yeah, so now let's sort of walk through the plot of Samson Agonistes. So again, he's first visited by his father, which is kind of acting as like an encouragement. And then he has 3 trials. The first trial being his ex-wife, Delilah. Second trial being Harapha. And the third trial being the public officer that takes him away to the festival the Philistines are having, where he, pushes the pillars. So I just wanted to start with a little selection right at the beginning, lines 15, where he talks about how sorry he is of his current state, right? So the character or plot arc of Samson, and this is what I'm referred to at the beginning in terms of masculine virtue, is he is in despair, right? He is blind, he's a slave, and he says he's eyeless in Gaza, which, if you don't know, Aldous Huxley, that's where he got the name for his book, Eyeless in Gaza, is from Samson Agonistes. Anyways, he's eyeless in Gaza, and he's despairing, right? And he talks about his tormenting thoughts, or his chief affliction. So he is being tempted here to give up, or to lose sight of the mission, or the task that God has promised him that he would carry out, which is he's going to be Israel's deliverer. And his current circumstances really don't point to that being the case, right? And so a lesser soul perhaps would have given up. And he is tempted in this direction, but we'll see how he overcomes that through his conversations. So let's establish the scene here. He has tormenting thoughts. Line 15, where here we are. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Here we go. Hence, with leave retiring from the popular noise, I seek this unfrequented place to find some ease. From the body some, none to the mind from restless thoughts, that like deadly swarm of hornets, armed, no sooner found alone, but rush upon me thronging, and present times past, what I once was and what I am now. Or what am now. So basically he's like, well, I was so cool before, like I was so strong, I could see, I was like the man. And now I'm reduced to nothing. So he's kind of despairing, based on how far he's fallen, which is very characteristic of the tragedy or the genre that this book is, or the work is, right? Again, more on his tormenting thoughts, lines 449 to 459. He talks about his chief affliction. Here we are, it says, Father, I do acknowledge and confess that I I this pomp have brought to Dagon. Dagon is the demonic sea god of the Philistines, and advance his praises high among the heathen round. To God have brought dishonor, obloquy, and oped the mouths of idolists and atheists, and brought scandal to Israel, diffidence of God, and doubt in feeble hearts, prepense enough before to waver, to fall off, and join with idols, which is my chief affliction, shame and sorrow, the anguish of my soul that suffers not mine eye to harbor sleep, or thoughts to rest. Right, he can't stop. He's in these circular thought patterns. He can't sleep. He's thinking about his sin and the dishonor he's brought to Yahweh, because he has brought honor instead to Dagon, and he is, because of his sin of revealing the secret, he has been reduced to a slave, eyeless in Gaza, and now people are thinking that Dagon is the true God, which is the thing that is his chief affliction, right? That he's failed the God of Israel. Now, we got more on his depressed state. We have on lines 487 how he has a defeated spirit. Samson says, "Spare me that proposal, father." So Manoah just came to visit Samson. He's saying, "Oh, I'm gonna sell my house to ransom you, or I'm gonna try to ransom you." And Samson says, "Spare that proposal, father. Spare the trouble of that solicitation. Let me hear, as I deserve, pay on my punishment, and expiate, if possible, my crime. Shameful garrulity." So he's basically saying, he's again despairing. He has no hope. He's like, don't even try to rescue me. Just let me serve my sentence. There's no point. So again, he's starting off, even though he's very mature in his response to his sin, he takes responsibility. The responsibility of his sin is too much to bear. He's just despairing, right? He has no hope for his ability to live out God's promise for him. Let's read more on that. Lines 521. His pardon I implore, but as for life, to what end should I seek it? Right? So he's like, what's the point of even living? So that's kind of extreme. 562, he says, "By which means, now blind, disheartened, shamed, dishonored, quelled, to what can I be useful? Wherein serve my nation, and the work from heaven imposed?" So the work from heaven imposed being he will be the deliverer of Israel from the Philistines. And he's he's basically saying I've been beaten, I've been vanquished. How can God use me? Right? So he's doubting God's ability to use him for the purpose that was set out. Last one here, one more about kind of dramatic. He's desiring death on lines 647. Samson says, "Nor am I in the list of them that hope. Hopeless are all my evils, all remediless. This one prayer yet remains, that I might be heard, not long petition, speedy death, the close of all my miseries, and the balm." He's like, I'm so miserable, just end my life. So he's really down in the dumps. So let's hope things are gonna get better for our tragic hero. Then we have Manoah, his father, who comes and gives him an encouraging speech. And the encouraging speech, the kernel of it, I think, is in 502 to 509. Manoah says to his son, "Be penitent for thy fault contrite, but act not in thy own affliction." So he's saying, it's good that you're taking responsibility for your sin, but don't, just despair over it, because that's useless. "Be penitent for thy cause contrite, but act not in thy own affliction, son. Repent the sin, but if the punishment thou canst avoid, self-preservation bids, or the execution leave to high disposal, and let another hand, not thine, exact thy penal forfeit from thyself. Perhaps God will relent, and quit thee all his debt." So he's saying, again, it's good that you're taking responsibility, but don't, punish yourself. Leave God to punish you. If you can avoid it, avoid the punishment, because perhaps that's God's will for you. He's trying to, encourage him to, get out of this slump and not just, acquiesce to his current circumstances. So eventually Manoah leaves. He's like, all right, good conversation. I'm gonna go take that money and try to ransom you. And he leaves. And then somebody else comes up, and the second conversation he has is with Delilah. So it's hard to tell from the beginning exactly what's going on, but we'll see as we progress through her section what's actually going on. So it starts, and the appearance is that she's actually sorry. It appears as though she is coming here to help him. She wants to free him, make his life easier, kind of console him, and then right at the end she reveals herself. So let's see. So she shows up, tries to make amends with him. I'm not going to read a section from that, but the first thing she says is like, "I'm sorry, Samson." And Samson's response is quite funny and very severe. I'm reading from lines 748. He says, "Out, out, hyena! These are thy wanted arts, and arts of every woman false like thee, to break all faith, all vows, deceive, betray, then, as repentant, to submit, beseech, and reconcilement move with feigned remorse, confess, and promise wonders in her charge, not truly penitent, but chief to try her husband, how far urged his patience bears, his virtue or weakness which way to assail. Then with more cautious and instructed skill, again transgress, and again submits, that wisest and best men full oft beguiled, with goodness principled not to reject the penitent, but ever to forgive, and are drawn out to wear out miserable days, entangled with a poisonous bosom snake, if not to by quick destruction soon cut off, as I by thee, to ages an example." So he's saying that, like, I know your tricks, Delilah, like right off the bat. I know what you're doing. You're gonna gain my trust again, and then just betray me again, and you're just gonna abuse my nice side, my patience, and then just do it again and again and again, and just for your own gain. So he's kind of calling her bluff right here. And then Delilah goes through the cycle of like trying to shift the blame onto everything else but herself. And so she first tries to blame it on her gender, then she tries to blame it on him, then she tries to blame it on love, and then she's just like trying to shift the blame off of her in every which way possible. So we're going to go through each of those because they're kind of funny. So the first thing she tries to do is blame it on her gender. So this is line 773. Delilah says, "First granting, as I do, it was a weakness in me." So this is Delilah speaking again. "First granting, as I do, it was a weakness in me, but incident to all our sex. Curiosity, inquisitive, inopportune of secrets. Then, with like infirmity, to publish them, both common female faults." I think that's 77, yeah. So she's saying like, well, it's not my fault. All women are fickle and share secrets, and they can't help themselves. So it's not really my fault, right? So bad excuse, right? But she tries. Second thing, she tries to blame it on him. So she says, "Was it not weakness also to make known thy inopportunity?" So she's saying, well, you were weak when you revealed it to me, the secret of your strength being in your hair, right? So she says, sorry, I lost it. "Was it not weakness also to make known for importunity, that is, for naught, wherein consisted all thy strength and safety? To what I did, thou showest me first the way." Is that what I was supposed to read to? It's till 89. "But I to enemies revealed, and should not, nor shouldst thou have trusted that to woman's frailty, ere I to thee, thou to thyself was cruel. Let weakness then with weakness come to quarrel, so near related, or the same of kind. Thine forgive mine, that men may censure thine the gentler, if severely thou exact not more strength from me than if thyself was found." So she's like, well, you really can't blame me because you were weak first, you revealed it to me, so that kind of makes my sin your fault. Which again, bad excuse, but she tries. Thirdly and lastly, she tries to blame it on her love for him. So we got 20 lines here starting on 790. She says, "And what if love, which thou interpretest hate, the jealousy of love, powerful of sway in human hearts, nor less in mine towards thee, caused what I did? I saw thee immutable of fancy, feared lest one day you wouldst leave me as her at Timnah. Sought by all means therefore how to endear, and hold thee to me firmest. No better way I saw than by importuning to learn thy secrets, get into my power the key of strength and safety. Thou wilt say, why then revealed? I was assured by those who tempted me that nothing was designed against thee but safe custody and hold, that made for me. I knew that liberty would draw thee forth to perilous enterprises, while I at home sat full of cares and fears, wailing thy absence in my widowed bed. Here I should still enjoy thee day and night, mine and love's prisoner, not the Philistines, whole to myself, unhazarded abroad, fearless at home of partners in my love. So she's saying, well, I love you so much that I wanted you to be safe, and I want to keep you at home and not like running about at war or anything like that. And also while you're running away at war, I don't want you to sleep with anybody else, so I'm gonna like basically make you so that you are like a slave and like can't do anything, so you're forced to stay home with me. Which is again terrible and manipulative and controlling. So yeah. And I just wanted to contrast here the two ways in which Samson and Delilah have responded to the events of him becoming eyeless in Gaza. Samson, of course, as I showed at the beginning, is very mature and responsible and takes responsibility for what happened. He's like, it's my fault. Whereas Delilah, we just saw, tries every which way to shift the blame off of herself. So there's a stark contrast being made here. But all of this argument from Delilah's perspective does not work on Samson. He, again, does not budge. 8:19, he says, how cunningly the sorceress displays her own transgressions, and upbraid me mine. That malice, not repentance, brought me hither. I'm reading to 21. Yeah. So he's saying, how cunningly the sorceress displays her own transgressions to upbraid me mine. So like, he's just calling her out, basically. And then also, on lines 829 to 842, he kind of addresses the ways that she shifts the blame. So he says, thou wilt renounce thy seeking, and much rather confess it feigned. Weakness is thy excuse, and I believe it. Weakness to resist Philistinian gold. So he kind of roasts her there. Yeah, you're weak, but not in the way you say. You're weak to resist the reward that the Philistines gave you for turning me over, which was gold. If weakness may excuse, what murderer, what traitor, parricide, incestuous, sacrilegious, but may plead it? He's like, if weakness is an excuse, every single criminal ever could excuse their crimes through weakness. All wickedness is weakness. All wickedness is weakness. That plea therefore with God or man will gain thee no remission. But love constrain thee? Call it furious rage to satisfy thy lust. Love seeks to have love. My love, how couldst thou hope? Who tookst the way to raise in me inexpiable, I can't say that word, inexpiable hate, knowing as needs I must, by thee betrayed. In vain thou strivest to cover shame with shame, or by evasions thy crime uncoverest more. So, yeah, he's just not buying it, which is good, because she tries again to, she tries many times to kind of get on his good side. At one point, she's like, oh, let me come just touch your hand. Let me just touch your hand. And he's like, no, if you come to touch me, I might rip you joint from joint. So he's like very kind of over the top dramatic and savage. And then right at the end, she betrays her true intentions. She says right before she leaves that she will leave him here, and she just wants to go and enjoy the fame that and all the money and the lavish gifts that her people will bestow upon her for what she has done for them. So she is really not sorry at all for what she did. She says this lines 991 to 996. Next page here. Oh, whoa, 991, that was a couple pages. She says, Nor shall I count it heinous to enjoy the public marks of honor and reward conferred upon me, for the piety to which to my country I was judged to have shown. And at this... No, that's it, I think. Yeah. So she's just basically saying, I'm not sorry, I'm going to go enjoy the fame and fortune that my people give me for betraying you. So, pretty sad, but that's what it is. Sorry, my voice is getting dry here. So, yeah, and so just to confirm that last point, that Delilah did indeed have ulterior motives. The chorus kind of responds to her speech, saying, "She's gone, a manifest serpent by her sting, discovered in the end, till now concealed." So, kind of telling the fact that she revealed her true intentions at the end. Now, moving on to his second trial, that of Harapha, the giant Philistine. So he basically comes to visit Samson purely to brag. He's basically saying, yeah, if you didn't have your eyes poked out, I would beat you in a fight. Which is kind of weird that he says that. So we're here on lines 1098. And he says, to Palestine, won by a Philistine from the unforeskinned race, of whom thou bearest the highest name for valiant acts, that honor certain to have won by mortal duel from thee, I lose, prevented by thy eyes put out. So he's like, if you didn't have your eyes put out, I'd challenge you to a fight and I'd win, because I'm awesome. And Samson does not, again, he's so savage, he doesn't take any of it. He's basically just like, you want to fight? Let's do it then. This is on lines 1103. He responds by saying, boast not what thou wouldst have done, but do what then thou wouldst. Thou seest it in thy hand. He's like, just, let's go, let's fight right now. And then Harapha comes up with some lame excuse. He says, we're on 1105. To combat with a blind man I disdain, and thou hadst need much washing to be touched. So he's like, I'm not gonna fight you because you're blind, and also you stink. Samson again doubles down on his challenge. He's like, I don't give a rip. Put us in a corridor where you can't run away, and let's fight. And Samson trusts God to help deliver him, or to help him win. So I'm on lines 1139 here. He says, because he's responding to Harapha. Harapha is like, well, you use some sort of enchantments to make you strong. And Samson says, I know no spells, use no forbidden arts. My trust is in the living God, who gave me at my nativity this strength, diffused no less through all my sinews, joints, and bones, that thine, while I preserve these locks unshorn, the pledge of my unviolated vow. For proof hereof, if Dagon be thy god, go to his temple, invocate his aid with solemnest devotion, spread before him how highly it concerns his glory now, to frustrate and dissolve these magic spells, which I, to be the power of Israel's God, avow, and challenge Dagon to the test, offering to combat thee his champion bold, with the utmost of his godhead seconded. Then thou shalt see, or rather to thy sorrow soon feel, whose God is strongest, thine or mine. So he's like, this is not just a physical struggle between you and me. If you think that I'm enchanted, or I'm using spells to make me strong, you go do the same thing. You go to Dagon, we'll pit our gods against each other, and we'll see who's stronger. So Samson really is putting his trust in God, which is a good thing, obviously. And then there's one final challenge that Samson issues Harapha before Harapha leaves. So this is on 1231. Harapha says, O Baalzebub, can my ears unused hear these dishonors, not render death? So Samson was roasting him, and he's like, well, I'm going to kill you now because you can't tell me all that stuff and me not respond. Samson says, well, no man withholds thee. Nothing from thy hand, fear I, uncurable. Bring up thy van. Thy heels are my heels are fettered, but my fist is free. So he's like, I've got chains on my feet, but my fist is free. Come get it. And then Harapha just leaves like a coward. And the chorus notes how he's kind of shuffling off like he's been emasculated. It's kind of funny. So the last person that comes by is the public officer, and he's like, Samson, we're having a festival. The Philistine leaders want to see you do some feats of strength. Come over. And he's like, am I going to use my strength, my gift from God, to debase myself and show off for Dagon, the Philistine god? No way. And then the public officer comes back, he's like, well, they really want you to come, and if you don't, they're gonna like make your life miserable and like torture you or something. And then he changes his mind. Let's backtrack a little bit, back to Samson's reasoning for refusing the public officer the first time. This is on lines 1354. Samson says, Shall I abuse this consecrated gift of strength, again returning with my hair after great transgression, so requite favor renewed, and add a greater sin by prostituting holy things to idols, a Nazarite in place abominable, vaunting my strength in honor of their Dagon? Besides, how vile, contemptible, ridiculous, what act more execrably unclean, profane. So basically saying what I just said, he doesn't want to use his God-given gift to glorify Dagon. Two things that this reveals is, oh sorry, I should keep reading. Yeah. So the chorus replies, yes, with this strength thou servest the Philistines, idolatrous, uncircumcised, unclean. Samson says, not in their idol worship, but by labor honest and lawful to deserve my food, of those who have me in their civic power. So he's saying, I don't want to glorify Dagon with my strength at this festival. And the chorus is like, but yet you grind the grain in the mill for them every day with your strength. And he's like, well, he's not idol worshipping, he's doing honest labor to get his food. And then the chorus replies, where the heart joins not, outward acts defile not. So they're saying that he's compulsed to grind the mill, his heart's not in it, he doesn't worship Dagon, he worships God, and so he is not condemned for serving the Philistines. And then Samson says, where outward force contains, the sentence holds. But who constrains me to the temple of Dagon, not dragging? The Philistinian lord's commands are no constraints. If I obey them, I do it freely, venturing to displease God for the fear of man, and man prefer. Set God behind, which in his jealousy shall never unrepented find forgiveness. So he's basically saying, like, I am forced to grind the mill, and I do it for honest labor, not idol worship. But when it comes to this festival and doing feats of strength in front of the throng of people, that is idol worship. And I do have a choice, right? Because I can choose to obey the commands, or I can choose not to, and they'll drag me there. So commands are not constraints. So the two themes that little section revealed is that the state of the heart defiles, not the action, which is the lines, where the heart joins not, outward acts defile not. That reminded me quite strongly of Jesus' Sermon on the Mount in Matthew 5:27, where he says, even to look on a woman with lust is to commit idolatry in your heart, right? So it's the state of the heart, not the action itself. And then the second theme in that section was that you always have a choice, right? Being commanded to do something is not a good excuse. You can still choose to disobey the command. And then the public officer comes back, he's like, come on, we should go. And then Samson changes his mind. So here we see him kind of open to seeing God's plan, and just willing to give up his will for God's will. So he says, this is after the second time the public officer comes back and says, come to the festival. He says, be of good courage. I begin to feel some rousing motions in me, which dispose to something extraordinary my thoughts. With this messenger will go along. Nothing can do, be sure, that may dishonor our law, or stain my vow of Nazarite. If there be aught of presage in the mind, this day will be remarkable in my life, by some great act, or of my days the last. So he's like, even though I don't want to do this, I think it's wrong, I can sort of feel God moving. And it's like, okay, I'm going to trust that I don't know best, but God knows best, and this is an opportunity. And he kind of discerns what the right thing to do is, and he changes his mind. So, hitherto, up until this point, we have seen him very strong in his convictions. He will not budge on anything. But in this, he does change his mind, so that's good. So after that, he rallies, he comes to himself, he's ready for action, right? Lines 1391. The chorus is reacting to what I just read, that Samson's like, okay, I'll go. And the chorus says, in time thou hast resolved, the man returns. So that single line did a lot for me, because it kind of shows how, even though he's in despair, he's eyeless in Gaza, he has nothing for him, he doesn't understand how God's plan is going to turn out in his life, yet he rallies in this moment. He changes his mind, he'll go. And in that time, the man returns, right? So kind of a display of discernment, and also overcoming despair and acting towards his mission, right? Which is very masculine. So then, of course, he's taken away. He goes to the festival. Manoah comes back with to the chorus, and they hear a noise. Everyone's screaming. They're like, "What's going on?" Then a messenger comes, and he's like, "Oh, Samson just killed himself and thousands of Philistines," and he dies the hero's death, right? And then we have at the end here, recognition of action and overcoming circumstance on 1687. This is the chorus. They say, "But he, though blind of sight, despised and thought extinguished quite, with inward eyes illuminated, his fiery virtue roused from under ashes into sudden flame." I think that's it, yeah. From under ashes into sudden flame. So it's saying, like I basically just said, right? He was down and out, and then he rallied at the end, and with fiery virtue roused from under ashes into sudden flame, right? He kind of found it in himself to do the right thing. So yeah, that's Samson Agonistes. It's only like 1,700, 1,800 lines, so it doesn't take that long to read. I read Paradise Regained. So the works that I've read by Milton is Paradise Lost, right? His magnus opus, the long one. I made 3 videos on that on my other channel. Very good, liked it. Read Paradise Regained, which is quite a bit shorter, like 1/5 of the length of Paradise Lost. Didn't really like it that much, to be honest. I mean, it's Milton, it's good, but I was kind of left disappointed, thinking it would kind of, it didn't measure up to Paradise Lost. And then I read Samson Agonistes, and I really liked it. So, yeah, if you want to get into Milton but don't want to commit to all of Paradise Lost, well, you should, because that's the magnus opus. But Samson Agonistes is a good warm-up, I would say. So yeah, definitely a good one. Thanks for sticking around. See you later.